Commander Riley Barnes stared at the holographic display showing the Xerion Fortress, a massive structure that looked like someone had crossed a medieval castle with a space station and then added way too many laser cannons. She turned to face the three-headed Galactic Council representative, each head wearing an expression that screamed, "We're about to ruin your day." "Let me get this straight," Riley said, her voice dripping with the kind of sarcasm that could corrode hull plating. "You want me to infiltrate the most heavily fortified position in the Outer Rim, neutralize its strategic value, and do it all without causing a single casualty? Not even a paper cut?" The middle head nodded gravely. "The Blorgan Empire may be incompetent, but they are still sentient beings deserving of." Yeah, galactic peace and harmony. I get it." Riley waved dismissively. "Just out of curiosity, what's the backup plan when this goes sideways?" "There is no backup plan," the left head admitted. "Fantastic." Riley rubbed her temples. "And I'm assuming the usual incentives apply? Save the galaxy, get a medal, probably posthumously?" "The Council believes in your creative problem-solving abilities." "Right, creative. That's what we're calling it now." Riley sighed and activated her comm unit. "Patches, Nitro, conference room. Now, in Patches, bring the good coffee. The kind we stole from the Centauri ambassador." 10 minutes later, her crew assembled. Patches, her engineer, looked like he'd been expecting bad news since birth, and was rarely disappointed. His tool belt contained more patches than actual tools, hence the nickname, and his default expression suggested the universe was personally out to get him. Nitro bounced into the room like a caffeinated kangaroo, his pilot's jacket covered in so many achievement patches it looked like a quilt. Everything was totally doable in Nitro's world, which would have been encouraging if his definition of doable wasn't synonymous with spectacularly dangerous. "All right, team," Riley began, gesturing at the fortress display. "New mission. We're going to infiltrate an impregnable fortress defended by trigger-happy aliens who shoot first and never bother with questions." "Totally doable." Nitro grinned. "What's the twist?" "We can't kill anyone. Not even accidentally. Not even if they're really asking for it." Patches nearly choked on his coffee. "You mean we have to take a fortress full of armed psychopaths without hurting anyone? That's not a mission. That's a philosophical experiment designed by sadists." "Pretty much, yeah." "This is going to end with us being vaporized, isn't it?" Patches muttered into his mug. "Probably," Riley agreed cheerfully. "But look on the bright side. If we're dead, we won't have to fill out the after-action reports." Nitro clapped his hands together. "So what's the plan, boss? Stealth insertion? Diplomatic immunity? Ooh, are we going to disguise ourselves as space janitors?" Riley studied the fortress specifications, noting the Blorgans' obsession with proper documentation and their legendary bureaucratic inefficiency. A slow smile spread across her face, the kind that made smart people nervous and dumb people extinct. "Actually," she said, "I think we're going to walk right through the front door." Patches stared at her. The front door of an impregnable fortress, where they shoot first and never ask questions, I know. But here's the thing about the Blorgans. They're not just incompetent. They're bureaucratically incompetent. There's a difference. "Is the difference that we die in triplicate?" Patches asked. "No, the difference is that they're so obsessed with proper procedures. They'll probably let us in if we have the right paperwork." Nitro's eyes lit up. "That's either brilliant or completely insane." "Why not both?" Riley shrugged. "Patches, I need you to hack into the Blorgan administrative database. Find out what kind of permits, licenses, and certificates we'd need to legally enter their fortress." "Legally enter a military installation?" Patches looked like he was developing an ulcer in real time. "That's not how fortresses work, Riley. That's not how any of this works. Maybe not for us, but the Blorgans love their red tape. I bet they have forms for everything, including invasion procedures. You want me to find the proper paperwork for conquering them?" "Exactly. And while you're at it, See if they have any regulations about food service providers. I have an idea that's either going to save the galaxy or get us all court-martialed. Why do I feel like it's going to be both? Patches sighed, pulling out his tablet. Because you're a pessimist with excellent pattern recognition, Riley replied. Nitro, think you can retrofit our shuttle to look like a food truck? Can I make it look like a food truck? Nitro scoffed. I can make it look like a food truck that also does weddings and bar mitzvahs. What kind of food truck are we talking about? The kind that serves really good food. The Blorgans have been eating military rations for decades. I bet they've forgotten what actual flavor tastes like. Patches looked up from his tablet, his expression somewhere between horror and admiration. You're going to conquer a fortress with sandwiches. Not just sandwiches. Really good sandwiches, with proper seasoning and everything. This violates so many military protocols I don't even know where to start, Patches muttered, but his fingers were already flying over his tablet. Though I have to admit, the Blorgan bureaucratic database is a thing of terrible beauty. They have forms for requesting forms to request other forms. Perfect. Find us the right forms and we'll bureaucracy our way right into their fortress. And then what? Patches asked. Riley's smile turned predatory. Then we show them what human efficiency looks like. 3 days later, Riley stood in their makeshift command center, surrounded by enough paperwork to choke a Vogon and the overwhelming smell of test recipes. Patches had outdone himself, producing documents so authentic-looking that even she was impressed. All right, she announced, waving a particularly official-looking certificate. We are now the certified representatives of Galactic Gourmet Express, licensed food service providers with full authorization to deliver nutritional satisfaction to military installations across 7 star systems. Nitro looked up from where he was installing a professional-grade sandwich press into their shuttle's cargo bay. The food truck conversion is almost done. I've got a full kitchen, seating for 12, and enough firepower hidden in the condiment dispensers to level a city block. We're not leveling anything, Riley reminded him. We're serving lunch. Right, but if lunch goes sideways? No sideways. Only lunch. Patches emerged from behind a stack of forms, looking like he'd been wrestling with bureaucratic monsters. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I found the perfect legal loophole. The Blorgans have a regulation requiring all military installations to accept properly credentialed food service providers during designated meal periods. And the bad news? The paperwork has to be submitted in 17 different colors of ink, notarized by a Class 7 diplomatic attach, and accompanied by a formal menu proposal that meets their dietary restrictions. Riley blinked. What dietary restrictions? Well, they're carnivores, but they can't digest anything that's been happy in the last 48 hours. Also, no foods that are primarily blue, nothing that rhymes with their word for mother, and absolutely no spherical vegetables. How do you rhyme with something in an alien language? Very carefully, according to the regulation manual. Nitro paused in his sandwich press installation. So we're making sad meat sandwiches with non-blue, non-rhyming, non-spherical vegetables? Essentially, yes. Riley rubbed her forehead. Sometimes I wonder if the universe is just an elaborate practical joke. Patches, please tell me you've got the diplomatic attached situation handled. Actually, yeah, it turns out the Galactic Council has a guy for this. Ambassador Fluffington is apparently qualified to notarize food service documents for hostile alien empires. Ambassador Fluffington. I know how it sounds, but he's legit. 3-time winner of the Diplomatic Excellence Award and holder of the Order of Extreme Patience. Fine. What about the menu? Patches pulled out another tablet, this one dedicated entirely to alien dietary requirements. I've been working with Nitro on recipes. We've got grilled depression beast sandwiches, melancholy vegetable wraps, and something I'm calling existential crisis soup. It tastes better than it sounds, Nitro added helpfully. The secret ingredient is actual flavor. These guys have been eating flavorless protein paste for so long, they're going to think we're food wizards. Riley looked at the shuttle, now completely disguised as the galaxy's most heavily armed food truck. It was painted bright yellow with cheerful alien script that, according to Patches, roughly translated to happiness through superior sandwiches. "This is insane," she muttered. "We're going to infiltrate a military fortress by serving them lunch." "Not just lunch," Patches corrected. "Properly documented, legally authorized, regulation-compliant lunch. That somehow makes it worse." "I think it makes it brilliant," Nitro said, testing the sandwich press. "They'll never see it coming because nobody would be stupid enough to try it." "Exactly. It's so stupid it might actually work." Riley picked up one of the completed forms, marveling at its complexity. "Patches, how many regulations did you have to read to put this together?" "All of them. Every single Blorgan military regulation, food service code, and diplomatic protocol. My brain now contains more useless administrative knowledge than their entire command structure." "That's actually kind of terrifying." "Tell me about it. Did you know they have specific procedures for requesting permission to submit a formal complaint about the color of their uniforms?" "How specific?" 47 pages, including appendices on acceptable complaint formatting and a glossary of approved dissatisfaction terminology. Riley stared at him. These people conquered 3-star systems. Apparently their enemies died of boredom waiting for them to finish the invasion paperwork. Right. Well, if they're that obsessed with proper procedures, this might actually work. Riley activated the ship's comm system. "This is Commander Barnes to Galactic Command. Request permission to launch Operation Lunch Break." The response crackled back almost immediately. "Command to Barnes. Did you just say Operation Lunch Break?" "Affirmative. We're infiltrating the fortress through their food service regulations." A long pause. "Barnes, are you having some kind of breakdown?" "Probably. But it's a tactical breakdown. We'll be in position within 6 hours." "Barnes, wait." She cut the connection and turned to her crew. "All right, people. Let's go serve some aliens the best meal of their lives." "And if this doesn't work?" Patches asked. "Then we'll be the first people in galactic history to be executed for violating food safety regulations." "That's oddly comforting." "I thought so too." Riley strapped herself into the pilot's seat. "Nitro, fire up the engines. Patches, make sure all our forms are in order. We've got a fortress to feed." As their shuttle lifted off, now officially designated as the Galactic Gourmet Express, Riley couldn't help but smile. If this worked, it would be the most ridiculous victory in military history. If it didn't work, it would be the most ridiculous defeat in military history. Either way, it was going to be one hell of a story. The Xerion Fortress loomed ahead like a giant metal middle finger pointed at the universe, bristling with enough weapons to vaporize a small moon. Riley guided their food truck shuttle toward the main docking bay, her hands steady on the controls despite the fact that they were flying directly into what was essentially a death trap with really good sandwiches. "Incoming transmission," Patches announced, his voice tight with the kind of stress that came from voluntary insanity. "They're hailing us." "Put them through," Riley said, switching to her best customer service voice. "And remember, we're professional caterers with proper documentation." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a Blorgan security officer who looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a filing cabinet. His uniform was perfectly pressed, his insignia meticulously arranged, and his expression suggested he took bureaucracy very, very seriously. "Unknown vessel, state your business," he growled in accented standard. "Greetings. This is Captain Riley of Galactic Gourmet Express, here to provide premium food services to your installation as per Regulation B47-Alpha 77. Riley held up their certification with a brilliant smile. "We have all the proper documentation, including certificates of culinary competence and a diplomatic food safety waiver." The security officer blinked slowly. "You have documentation?" "Oh yes, all properly notarized and submitted in the required 17 colors of ink. Would you like to review our permits?" "Permits for food service." At a military installation. The officer sounded like he was trying to process a concept that didn't quite fit in his brain. Absolutely. We specialize in regulation-compliant meals for hard-working military personnel. I believe your lunch period begins in approximately 37 minutes. Patches leaned over and whispered, "He's actually checking his schedule." The officer looked down at a tablet, then back at the screen. Our lunch period does begin in 37 minutes. But we have never had outside food service providers. Well, there's a first time for everything. Riley's smile could have powered a small city. I have to say, your administrative efficiency is impressive. Most facilities take hours to process our applications. Hours? The officer looked genuinely offended. We process all documentation within regulation timeframes. Please transmit your forms for immediate review. Of course. Transmitting now. Patches sent their carefully crafted paperwork. And Jai. They watched the officer's expression change from suspicious to confused to something approaching awe as he scrolled through page after page of perfect bureaucratic compliance. "These forms are beautiful," he whispered. "The formatting is exquisite. The cross-references are immaculate. I have never seen such attention to administrative detail." "We take pride in our paperwork," Riley said modestly. "Please, docket Bay 7. I must show these forms to General Blurp immediately. He will be moved." The transmission ended, and Nitro let out a long whistle. Did he just get emotional about paperwork? "These people have problems," Patches muttered, but he was grinning. "Beautiful problems that are about to let us walk right into their fortress." Riley guided them into the docking bay, which was the cleanest, most organized space she'd ever seen. Everything was labeled, sorted, and arranged with obsessive precision. Even the emergency equipment was color-coded and alphabetized. "Okay," she said as they powered down. "Remember the plan. We're here to serve lunch, conduct a routine efficiency assessment, and absolutely not conquer anyone." "Right," Nitro said, strapping on his chef's apron. "No conquering. Just really, really good sandwiches." The airlock cycled, and they stepped into the fortress to find a small, welcoming party of Blorgan officers, all wearing expressions of barely contained excitement. At their head stood an imposing figure who could only be General Blurp himself. "Welcome, welcome," General Blurp boomed, his voice echoing through the pristine corridors. "I am General Blurp, commanding officer of this installation. I must say your documentation is absolutely spectacular. I have been reviewing it for the past 12 minutes and I am, how do you humans say, deeply moved by its thoroughness." "Thank you, General. We believe proper documentation is the foundation of any successful operation." "Yes, exactly. Finally, someone who understands." The General's eyes were actually shining with what might have been tears of joy. "My staff thinks I am obsessive about proper procedures, but you clearly appreciate the beauty of well-organized administrative systems." "Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'd love to see your filing system sometime. I bet it's impressive." General Blurp practically glowed. "Would you really? Oh, this is wonderful. But first you mentioned food service? We are indeed approaching our designated meal period." "Right this way," Riley gestured toward their shuttle. "We've prepared a selection of regulation-compliant dishes that should meet all your dietary requirements." As they led the Blorgan officers to their mobile kitchen, Riley noticed something interesting. The fortress was incredibly well organized, but it was also completely routine-driven. Every soldier they passed was doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing at exactly the time they were supposed to be doing it. These weren't warriors. They were bureaucrats with weapons. Nitro began serving samples of their carefully prepared meals, and the reaction was immediate and dramatic. The first Blorgan to try the grilled depression beast sandwich actually swooned. "This has flavor," he whispered in amazement. "Actual, detectable flavor. How is this possible?" "Trade secrets," Nitro winked. "Plus we use real seasonings instead of regulation flavor paste." Within minutes, word had spread throughout the fortress. Soldiers were abandoning their posts to try the miraculous food that actually tasted like something. The orderly precision of the fortress began to dissolve into excited chatter about seasoning and proper sandwich construction. General Blurp took a bite of the existential crisis soup and nearly wept. This is incredible. In 30 years of military service, I have never experienced anything like this. Well, Riley said casually, if you're interested, we also offer efficiency consulting services. I noticed your operation here is very well organized, but I might have a few suggestions for optimization. Efficiency consulting. The general's eyes went wide. You mean you could help us improve our already excellent administrative systems? I'd be honored. In fact, I'm a certified galactic management consultant. I could conduct a preliminary assessment this afternoon if you'd like. This afternoon? But we have scheduled patrol duties, weapons maintenance, and guard rotations. Oh, those can wait, Riley waved dismissively. Proper organizational assessment takes priority. I'm sure your staff would benefit from some professional development workshops. General Blurp looked like he'd just been offered the crown jewels. Professional development workshops? Here? In our fortress? Absolutely. Team building exercises, efficiency seminars, performance optimization. We could have you running at peak administrative capacity within a week. This is the best day of my military career, the general breathed. Patches caught Riley's eye and mouthed, "What are you doing?" Riley just smiled. Phase 1 was complete. They were inside the fortress, they had the commanding officer's complete trust, and every soldier in the place was more interested in sandwiches than security. Now came the fun part. By the next morning, Riley had somehow become the fortress's new Director of Operational Excellence, a position that General Blurp had created specifically for her after she'd spent 3 hours reviewing their filing system and suggesting improvements. She now had her own office, complete administrative access, and a Blorgan assistant named Clerk Gerbil, who treated her suggestions like divine commandments. The efficiency assessment is complete, Riley announced to the assembled senior staff in what used to be the fortress's war room but was now officially designated as Conference Room Alpha 77B. I have identified several areas for immediate improvement. General Blurp leaned forward eagerly. Please, share your insights. We live to optimize. First, your current patrol schedules are creating unnecessary redundancy. I'm implementing a new rotating system that will increase coverage efficiency by 47%. 47%. Gasped Major Blorp, the fortress's tactical officer. How is such improvement possible? Simple mathematics and proper resource allocation, Riley replied, projecting a chart that looked impressively official, but was actually just a creative reorganization that would leave half the fortress unguarded during shift changes. The key is synchronized efficiency protocols. Patches, now officially designated as Technical Optimization Specialist, nodded gravely from his position by the door. He'd spent the morning installing what he claimed were efficiency monitoring devices throughout the fortress. They were actually just fancy-looking cameras and speakers that would let Riley coordinate the operation from anywhere. Second, Riley continued, your weapons maintenance schedule needs restructuring. Instead of maintaining battle readiness, I'm proposing a conversion to what I call dynamic defensive positioning. Dynamic defensive positioning, General Blurp repeated reverently. It sounds revolutionary. It is. Instead of having weapons constantly ready to fire, we'll position them for maximum psychological impact while minimizing accidental discharge risks. Much safer. And the psychological effect is often more important than actual firepower. What she didn't mention was that dynamic defensive positioning meant pointing all the weapons away from anything important and disabling their targeting systems for safety optimization. Major Blorp raised a tentacle. But what if we're attacked? That's where the third improvement comes in, Riley smiled. Advanced communication protocols. Instead of shooting first and asking questions later, we'll implement a comprehensive dialogue system designed to resolve conflicts through superior administrative processes. We're going to defeat our enemies with paperwork? Asked Captain Blurk, the fortress's security chief. Not defeat. Overwhelm. There's a difference. No military force in the galaxy is prepared to deal with properly implemented bureaucratic procedures. We'll bog them down in forms and regulations until they surrender out of sheer frustration. The Blorgan officers exchanged glances of pure awe. This was the most beautiful military strategy any of them had ever heard. Brilliant, General Blurp declared. When do we begin implementation? Immediately. I've prepared individualized efficiency improvement plans for each department. Riley distributed tablets loaded with what appeared to be complex administrative workflows but were actually just elaborate ways to keep everyone busy doing nothing productive. Clerk Goebbels will be coordinating the transition. I've also scheduled mandatory team-building exercises for this afternoon. We'll be doing trust falls, communication workshops, and collaborative problem-solving sessions. Trust falls? Major Blorp looked confused. Essential for unit cohesion, Riley said seriously. How can you trust your fellow soldiers in combat if you can't trust them to catch you when you fall backward? This makes perfect sense, General Blurp nodded. What other exercises will we be doing? Well, there's the communication circle, where everyone takes turns sharing their feelings about fortress operations. Then we have the collaborative decision-making workshop, where we'll spend several hours reaching consensus on the color of the cafeteria walls. Several hours on wall color selection? Captain Blurk sounded impressed. The attention to detail is extraordinary. Attention to detail is everything, Riley agreed. Speaking of which, I noticed your fortress lacks proper customer service protocols. What happens if visitors have complaints about your hostile military posture? Visitors? General Blurp blinked. We shoot at visitors. It's policy. That's terrible customer service. I'm implementing a new visitor relations program. From now on, anyone approaching the fortress gets a warm welcome, a brief orientation tour, and a satisfaction survey. A satisfaction survey for potential enemies? Absolutely. How else will you know if your defensive strategies are meeting their needs? Maybe they're only attacking because they feel ignored or undervalued. The room fell silent as the Blorgan officers contemplated this revolutionary concept. You're suggesting we ask our enemies what they want? Major Blorp asked slowly. Communication is the foundation of all successful relationships, Riley said sagely. Even adversarial ones. Nitro, now wearing a badge identifying him as Nutritional Wellness Coordinator, chose that moment to enter with a cart full of sandwiches. Afternoon snack time, everyone. Today we're featuring melancholy meat wraps with optimistically seasoned vegetables. The sight of actual food immediately derailed all military thinking. Within minutes, the senior staff meeting had devolved into an enthusiastic discussion of sandwich construction techniques and the proper ratio of sadness to flavor and depression beast preparation. Riley watched with satisfaction as the most feared military installation in the Outer Rim transformed into something resembling a corporate retreat planning session. By tomorrow, she estimated, they'd have the entire garrison convinced that their primary mission was hospitality management. Patches, she whispered as the officers debated the philosophical implications of pickle placement. How's the technical side going? I've got complete access to their systems, he whispered back. Their security protocols are so focused on proper authorization that once you're in the system legitimately, you can do anything. I could reprogram their entire defense grid to play classical music if I wanted to. Don't give me ideas, Riley grinned. How long until we have complete administrative control? At this rate, maybe 6 more hours. They're so busy implementing your efficiency improvements, they haven't noticed that each new procedure gives us more access to their command systems. Perfect. By tomorrow morning, this place will be running like a proper business. A business that used to be a fortress. The best kind. 3 days later, the Xerion Fortress had been completely transformed. What had once been a grim military installation was now buzzing with the kind of productive energy usually found in successful corporate headquarters. Everywhere Riley looked, Blorgan soldiers were engaging in team-building exercises, attending professional development seminars, or participating in customer service training. The fortress's main conference room had been converted into a presentation space where Riley was conducting her final strategic reorganization workshop. Every member of the garrison was present, from General Blurp down to the newest private. After 3 days of intensive assessment, Riley announced, gesturing at a holographic display showing various career paths, that I'm pleased to present your personalized professional development opportunities. The Blorgans leaned forward eagerly. Over the past few days, they discovered that Riley's management techniques were not only effective but actually made work enjoyable. For the first time in their military careers, they were excited about their jobs. General Blurp, Riley continued, your exceptional organizational skills and attention to detail make you perfect for a leadership role in the hospitality industry. The Galactic Tourism Board has expressed interest in hiring you as their new regional hospitality manager. Hospitality management? General Blurp's eyes lit up. You mean I could use my administrative expertise to help people have pleasant vacations instead of conducting military operations? Exactly. Think about it. All the organizational challenges you love, but instead of preparing for war, you'd be ensuring that travelers have the best possible experience. Better hours, better pay, and significantly less chance of being shot at. This sounds wonderful. But what about the fortress? Well, that's the beauty of it. The fortress itself would make an excellent resort destination. You've got stunning views of the nebula, plenty of space for guests, and the kind of pristine organization that would make any hospitality professional weep with joy. Major Blorp raised a tentacle. Are you suggesting we convert our military installation into a vacation resort? I'm suggesting you leverage your existing assets for maximum career satisfaction, Riley replied smoothly. Think about your current duties. You spend most of your time maintaining facilities, ensuring security, managing schedules, and dealing with logistics. A resort manager does exactly the same things, but the guests are happy to be there. And nobody shoots at resort managers, added Captain Blurk thoughtfully. Significantly less shooting, yes. Plus you'd be helping people relax and enjoy themselves instead of, preparing to vaporize them. The room buzzed with excited conversation as the Blorgan officers considered this unexpected career opportunity. Riley had spent the past 3 days carefully studying their personalities and motivations, and she'd discovered something remarkable. Most of them had only joined the military because it was the only organization that appreciated their obsessive attention to detail and love of proper procedures. What about our military training? Asked Lieutenant Blurg, the fortress's communications officer. Completely transferable skills, Riley assured him. Military communication protocols are excellent preparation for managing resort guest services. You already know how to coordinate complex logistics, handle emergency situations, and maintain clear lines of communication. Those are exactly the skills the hospitality industry values most. And our weapons training? Security services. Every good resort needs professional security staff who can handle problems without escalating to violence. Your training in de-escalation and threat assessment would be invaluable. Nitro, who had become something of a celebrity chef among the Blorgans, stood up from his position near the kitchen setup. I've been talking to some of the guys in the mess hall, and they're really excited about the possibility of cooking for people who actually appreciate good food instead of just eating whatever they're given, because it's regulation. Exactly. Riley clapped her hands together. Instead of military rations, you'd be preparing gourmet meals for grateful guests. Instead of manning battle stations, you'd be helping families create beautiful vacation memories. Instead of following orders from distant bureaucrats who don't appreciate your talents, you'd be part of a team dedicated to making people happy. General Blurp was practically vibrating with excitement. And the paperwork? Resort management must require extensive documentation and regulatory compliance. Oh, General, you have no idea. The hospitality industry has forms for everything. Guest registration, service requests, maintenance schedules, safety protocols, customer satisfaction surveys, staff scheduling, inventory management. It's a bureaucrat's paradise. This is the most beautiful career opportunity I have ever heard, General Blurp whispered. But what about our loyalty to the Blorgan Empire? Asked Major Blorp. Riley had been waiting for this question. Well, think about it this way. What has the Empire ever done for you? They stick you out here in the middle of nowhere, barely supply you with decent food, never promote anyone. Yet, expect you to spend your lives waiting for a war that might never come. Meanwhile, the Galactic Tourism Board offers competitive salaries, comprehensive benefits, career advancement opportunities, and the chance to see the galaxy while helping people have the time of their lives. Plus added patches, who had become the Fortress's unofficial consultant. I've run the numbers on employee satisfaction in the tourism industry versus military service. Tourism wins by approximately 700%. 700% more satisfying? Captain Blurk sounded amazed. At minimum. And that's not even counting the job security. Military installations get shut down all the time, but good resorts run for decades. Riley pulled up a final holographic display showing the proposed resort layout. Here's what I'm envisioning. We convert the barracks into luxury suites. The mess hall becomes a 5-star restaurant. The weapons platforms become scenic observation decks, and the command center becomes a world-class spa facility. A spa? General Blurp looked intrigued. Think about it. You've got natural hot springs from the geothermal vents, stunning views, and the kind of peaceful isolation that stressed-out travelers pay premium prices to experience. And we'd still get to use our organizational skills? Every single day. Running a resort requires the same attention to detail, scheduling coordination, and procedural compliance that you already excel at. The only difference is that instead of preparing for combat, you'd be preparing for customer satisfaction. The room fell silent as the Blorgan officers contemplated this radical career change. Riley held her breath, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether her plan succeeded or whether she'd have to explain to the Galactic Council why she'd accidentally converted a military fortress into a hospitality management seminar. Finally, General Blurp stood up. I believe I speak for all of us when I say that this opportunity is too good to pass up. If the Galactic Tourism Board is truly interested in our services, then I hereby formally request reassignment from military duty to hospitality management. The room erupted in cheers. Every single officer was nodding enthusiastically, already discussing room assignments and menu planning. Riley smiled. I'll make the arrangements immediately. Welcome to your new careers, everyone. She activated her comm unit and sent a coded message to the Galactic Council. Mission accomplished. Fortress neutralized. No casualties. Recommend immediate tourism development funding. Outside the conference room windows, the weapon platforms were already being converted into scenic overlooks, and the first Welcome to Xerion Resort sign was being installed by enthusiastic former soldiers. It was, Riley reflected, probably the strangest military victory in galactic history. 2 weeks later, Riley stood in the newly renamed Xerion Galactic Resort and Spa, watching General Blurp conduct a staff meeting about towel folding techniques. The transformation was complete and absolutely surreal. The fortress's former war room now featured a reception desk, comfortable seating, and a holographic display showing local weather conditions and recreational activities. The customer satisfaction scores from our first week are excellent, General Blurp announced to his staff, who were now wearing crisp hospitality uniforms instead of military gear. We received 4.8 stars out of 5 on the Galactic Travel Network, with particular praise for our attention to detail and exceptional service. Riley's comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. She stepped into what used to be the fortress's strategic planning room, and was now a quiet office space with tasteful decorations and a coffee machine. Commander Barnes, came the voice of the three-headed council representative, each head wearing a different expression of bewilderment. We've received your mission report, and we have questions. Fire away, Riley said, settling into a comfortable chair. You were tasked with neutralizing the Xerion Fortress without causing casualties. Correct. And according to your report, you accomplished this by converting the entire garrison into hospitality workers. Also correct. The fortress is now a luxury resort. 5-star rating, actually, Riley corrected with a slight smile. Well, 4.8, but we're working on that last point too. The middle head of the council representative blinked slowly. Commander Barnes, when we said neutralize the threat, we didn't mean this. With respect, sir, the mission parameters were quite clear. Eliminate the military threat posed by Xerion Fortress without loss of life. The fortress is no longer a military installation, the garrison is no longer engaged in warfare, and nobody died. Mission accomplished. The left head frowned while the right head looked almost impressed. The middle head continued, but they're still there. The same aliens who were threatening galactic peace are now folding towels? And doing an excellent job of it, Riley added. General Blurp has implemented a 17-point quality control system for linens. It's quite remarkable, really. Turns out military precision translates beautifully to hospitality standards. Through the office window, she could see General Blurp demonstrating proper pillow fluffing technique to a group of former artillery specialists, and their attention to detail was extraordinary. Commander, the right head spoke up, sounding curious despite itself. How exactly did you convince an entire military fortress to become a resort? Riley leaned back in her chair. I showed them the profit margins in luxury hospitality versus the overhead costs of galactic conquest. Turns out warfare is expensive and has terrible customer retention rates. Plus, their natural attention to detail and hierarchical structure made them perfect for high-end service industry work. The left head shook itself vigorously. This is highly irregular. We've never had a military threat resolve itself by opening a spa. Innovation in conflict resolution, Riley replied smoothly. The fortress is neutralized, the sector is peaceful, and they're contributing positively to the galactic economy. Tourism revenue is up 30% in this system alone. The middle head consulted some sort of holographic document. Your report mentioned something about a customer loyalty program? General Blurp's idea. Former enemies get a 15% discount on their first stay. It's actually improved diplomatic relations significantly. The Andromedan Trade Federation just booked their annual summit here. There was a long pause as all three heads conferred in whispers. Finally, the middle head spoke again. Commander Barnes, this outcome is so unprecedented that we're not entirely sure how to classify it in our records. May I suggest diplomatic innovation under mission success? Riley offered helpfully. We'll consider that. In the meantime, you're being reassigned. Riley raised an eyebrow. Sir? There's a situation in the Vega system. A notorious space pirate crew has been disrupting shipping lanes for months. We need someone with unconventional problem-solving skills. Riley grinned. Any particular approach you'd recommend? Surprise us, Commander. Just maybe warn us next time before you revolutionize an entire sector's economy? As the transmission ended, Riley heard familiar footsteps in the hallway. General Blurp appeared in the doorway, still wearing his pristine hospitality uniform, a concerned expression on his blue face. Commander Barnes, he said formally, then his expression softened. Riley, I overheard part of your conversation. You're leaving us? New assignment, she confirmed, standing up. But I have to say, General, what you've built here is extraordinary. You've taken military excellence and applied it to making people happy. That's not easy to do. General Blurp straightened with visible pride. We learn from the best. Your tactical briefing on customer satisfaction as ultimate victory condition changed everything for us. Riley chuckled. Just remember to keep innovating. Maybe consider adding that spa you mentioned. I hear hot stone massages are very popular with stressed-out bureaucrats. Already in the works, Blurp replied with what might have been a smile. We're converting the old weapons testing facility into a full wellness center. Former explosives experts, it turns out, have very steady hands for delicate treatments. As Riley packed her gear, she reflected on the mission. The Galactic Council might be bewildered, but the results spoke for themselves. The Xerion system was peaceful, prosperous, and happy. Sometimes the best way to win a war was to make everyone realize they'd rather be doing something else entirely. Her comm unit chimed with details about the Vega system pirate situation. Riley smiled as she read the briefing. Pirates, huh? She wondered if they'd ever considered a career in event planning,